Thank you for joining us for this episode of It's a Wrap, the show in which we take a look at the nonsense that we've perpetrated in the name of this republic. Shame. So government thinks they can put an end to the SME bank's stench by merely shutting down the bank, pulling yet another eye blind on its citizens and allow business to go on as usual. Well, no, SWAPO-led government, we, the people that placed you in power, want answers. And why is President Gebhardt staying silent on these issues? Wasn't this bank his brainchild? Who will answer for this? I wonder why the sudden rush to shut down the bank and liquidate all assets. Where's the audit at? Employees demonstrated this week.
100+ employees of the SME bank gathered at the bank's headquarters in Windhoek to express concern over the possible closure of the SME bank. Chanting that they are innocent, the staff called for the prosecution of top bosses, reportedly responsible for the alleged missing $196 million. With 208 jobs on the line, they pleaded for government to consider how the bank's closure would affect them. The demo was led by the Namibian Financial Institutions Union, NAFINU.
We demand that action is taken against the culprits. Freeze their accounts, seize their properties to government and lock them up.
Lock them up! Lock them up! Lock them up!
The citizens have had enough of all this corruption, and we're not going to wait for karma to come and get you. Lock them up. Lock them up. Here's what people had to say on social media. Ibn posted, I remember how government workers and unions were up in arms about the GIPF looting 8 years ago. Then they went quiet and government made it all go away. Now workers are upset again, but this will just die a silent death. People must realize what corruption does to the country and that the ACC will not come to our rescue. Insisting on keeping people accountable must never end, or the damage will never end. The people of Namibia, the workers, have only themselves to blame. And I do blame myself. So should you. Silvani wrote, once again the architects of poverty have prevailed, played our economy like a village girl lost in the city lights. In the words of Rashi Hama, all the sugar daddies want to grab her, city young girl. Tragedy, such a tragedy. We have bad deal makers in our country and our generation will have to pay their bill. Here in line, we are going to pay Shem. Emil posted, the employees of the SME bank have become victims. Meanwhile, Kapofi and co are probably planning a luxurious weekend getaway to the Maldives. Cry the beloved country. We all know that the ACC reports to the Prime Minister's office, so we can't trust that. We, however, managed to catch up with Finance Minister Kalesh Letwine.
The liquidation process is a process that is legally regulated very strictly. And if it is properly executed, we do not expect any additional lawsuits against anyone. The shareholder and the liquidators work closely together in a liquidation process, and I think there is no real risk for additional lawsuits if the liquidation process is executed properly. We believe that the liquidation of the SME bank is a very necessary step, the most economic step that we can do, provided that, as I have said, the need to provide access to affordable funding to SMEs is replaced by an arrangement that is still to be developed. But the SME bank in its form did not deliver on that mandate. And I think the time has now come to protect public resources, to protect taxpayers' money, instead of throwing money at the problem. We have to terminate and regroup and use those public monies that we would have poured into the bank for more effective ways to fund SMEs. The SME bank was supervised as a retail bank, which is subject to Banking Institutions Act and the regulations and the prudential requirements of that act. It was continuously evaluated and it was continuously operating on the verge of not complying. So the process that followed thereafter only started when it dropped below requirements of the Bank of Namibia's regulatory framework, the Banking Institutions Act, and a due process was followed. We, through the Bank of Namibia, requested the management and shareholders of the bank to step up their operations to bring the bank back into prudential requirement thresholds. That was not possible, and therefore the bank then did what it is legally obliged to do, and that is to close the bank. If we do not close a failing financial institution, you induce risk into the whole financial sector, and that may not happen.
Namibians are upset, Shem, especially those that in the spirit of Harambe invested their hard-earned dollars into the SME bank trying to invest in this here economy. Some people have lost all their money. The woke ones removed their money from the institution when they smelled large rats. How large companies like the United Africa Group and Woermann Brock were given loans over small and medium enterprises gives us just an inkling of insight into the level of rot in our state-run enterprises. If I had $1 million for every request I've made to the ACC and to Public Enterprises Minister Leon Jooste on this here subject, child, I'd have had as many millions as the president declared. Please note, it is your taxes that keep institutions such as the SME Bank, Transnamib, Air Namibia, the RCC, GIPF, NamPower, etc. afloat. Are we going to let this slide too?